hundreds of books will be written about these people. You and I, zero. Your thoughts mean nothing. Your ideas mean nothing. Your hurts and wounds mean nothing. Enkidu is there to make Gilgamesh relevant, memorable. Now let's go back to where we were, which was Gilgamesh is at a stage in his relationship with Enkidu where from the moment he wakes up, he asks Enkidu what, if there is anything that he can do for him to make his life easier, to make it comfortable, to make it more enjoyable. You know, Jane has 2 kids. Chin has 1. I'm a man, so I can't really speak of this. When you're a mother and something grows inside you, the idea of you leaving him or her for more than a couple of hours or a couple of minutes is unthinkable. We don't really have any selfishness or ambitions about you. You don't want to be a CEO unless you happen to be profoundly damaged. You know, you gave birth to this thing, so you need to take care of it. So mothers will tell you that from the moment they wake up to the time they go to sleep, they just serve children, their kids, especially when they're very, very young and weak. There comes a point, of course, the kids, of course, frustrate the mothers and they need some time off. But there comes a point in parenthood, especially in motherhood, when contemporary times, where the woman says, I want to go out there and I want to be educated. I want to have my own life. I want to have my own paycheck. I want to have my own bank accounts. And these are 2 different women. The moment you become a mother, I mean, before that, you're selfish. You become a mother, you become selfless. Then again, you become selfish. How do you become selfless? There is only one component, one force that pushes all of us outside of ourselves, and that's called love. Gilgamesh falls in love with Enkidu. From the moment he wakes up, he asks Enkidu, I need to make you more comfortable. What should I do? How do you fall in love with a man who makes you feel bad about who and what you've become? Enkidu reminds Gilgamesh of how contaminated he is. What a poison he is to himself and his society. How could you love him? It all began with the wrestling game. And the point of it is this. If you have anger inside you, you will wrestle with it. But if you want to learn from the anger that lives inside you, you must grow to love it. And that takes many, 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 many years. The best example of many, many years is found in the biography of Malcolm X. From a very young age, he disliked, in fact, he hated being black. He ends up in prison. His brother needs to convince him that he needs to be proud of his history, proud of his skin color, proud of himself and his people. That's how you fall in love. You're imprisoned. You're harassed and abused by the pain. And this is not a bumper sticker conversation. An act of love, an act of compassion that once in a while you read while you're waiting for the light to turn green on a bumper sticker. It's not an Oprah Winfrey bumper sticker. It's not a Dr. Phil a bumper sticker. It's not one of those self-help books that you read in 2 hours. First, you fight with the things that pains you. Then you become intimate. Then you fall in love. Then you serve it. Because when you have pain, you write poetry. You play music. You go for walks. Your pain becomes your most faithful companion. You know how to deal with it. But for that to happen, you need to be about 50 or 60 or 70. Okay. So remember, none of you, forgive me, none of you are in a position to say you love yourself or you want to love yourself. No, it doesn't work that way. It takes a great courage first to see a very clear reflection of yourself. And then avoid distracting yourself from what you witness. And then wrestling with what you see, which is horrifyingly ugly. And then grow the conflict. And then live in the conflict. Make peace with the conflict. And then learn from the ugliness that lives within. That is the function of Enkidu. So don't YouTube all these new age gurus telling you should love yourself, accept yourself. No, that's not the way things work. None of us have anything likable about us. We are human beings. We're dealing with a lot of unknown facts about us. Unknown components about us. You have no idea what this culture has done to you. You have no idea the function of capitalism on the human psyche. You have no idea how it feels and what it means to have been born and to be raised without a father or a mother, or if you have one, to be around abuse all the time. So when someone looks at you and says, I love you, beware. There is nothing about you that's lovable. All of us need to be tolerated, not loved. Okay? And that's the beauty of this epic. All the things that you need to know about what it means to be human, it lives inside this epic. Now, and remember, people, it's not really easy to love anything. Especially someone who reflects back to you what a scumbag you are. Now, there is this nice saying of Nietzsche's, the German philosopher. He had argued that we didn't kill Jesus because we hated him. We killed him because we hated ourselves. He revealed to us our great potential and capacities. he also revealed to us how fragile we are. That despite this great potential, this great capacity, we don't have the will. We don't really have the desire or the need to change. We are comfortable in sloth, in laziness, in callousness. And what do you do to a mirror that reflects back how ugly you are? Well, you can't change the way you look. Break the mirror and trash it. That is your salvation. And though all of us in this class may desire honesty, none of us had the capacity to receive it and receive it well. So Gilgamesh had the great fortune of looking at Enkidu, seeing his own ugly reflection, and be okay with it. In fact, he grows to love Enkidu. Enkidu has a dream. I'm not sharing a good amount of the epic because I'm growing tired of this story and I want to go to Hinduism hopefully tomorrow. So I'm just sharing with you what I think to be important and interesting. You may one day read the epic yourself and find that, you know, my interpretation or my ideas about what is interesting, in fact, are not interesting. You may have your own ideas of what is interesting about the epic. Enkidu has a dream. In the dream, he sees himself on this bed. He is sick and he is dying. He sees himself in this place called the house of dust and sand. It's the ancient world of the place you go when you die. It's called Sheol in Judaism. Initially in Judaism, for those of you who are of the tradition, there is no heaven or hell. God does not come down to judge you, to condemn you, to send you either to hell or paradise. The ancient Jews believed that once you die, you just disappear, that's it. Once the Jewish tradition, they meet the Zoroastrians from Persia, all of a sudden they hear of this idea that there is a god named Ahura Mazda, that when you die, Ahura Mazda looks at your soul, and then if your soul happens to be filled with toxins, he puts you in this ocean of, or river of fire, and you live there for about 3,000 years. If on the other hand, your soul has been relatively good, pure, he'll send you to a place called Firdaus, or heaven, or paradise. Okay? If you read the history of Egypt, Egypt falls into 3 kingdoms: old, middle, and new. In the old kingdom of Egyptian philosophy, there is no heaven, there is no hell. No one weighs your heart with a feather. No God makes a judgment upon you. It is only in this middle kingdom where for the first time Egypt was conquered after 600 years. All of a sudden they become interested in the concept of justice and fairness and right and wrong. Okay? Now, a couple of things about dreams. There are lots of dreams that you and I have where you can really dismiss it, they're nonsense. But some dreams are profoundly important. Again, remember, some 5,000-6,000 years ago, you have a community of people. This is without Freud being present, no dream analysis, and yet they believe that dreams come from paradise, come from high above, that someone, some God up there, has looked down, found you an interesting entity, and they want to give you a message. And they give you a message by giving you a dream. Okay? Now, it's something that some of you have heard me say in other classes. I'll repeat. There are 3 ways that human beings or dreams can fall into 3 different categories. The first is the following. You have the hustle and bustle of life. Your boss makes you angry. Your wife or your husband frustrates you. You have urges that need to be satisfied. Physical, sexual urges. So what happens? Something about the human body, the human mind, the human emotions, they need to get rid of the pressure that lives inside them. This is Chin's first night in this class. A few times she has had her hands up. A few times I said, okay, say your piece. A few times her hand went up, but I didn't call on her. Why does a hand go up? They hear something. They smell something. They are triggered. Whether she understands or she basically has a collection of bumper stickers inside her is irrelevant. She hears something, pressure is built. Pressure created by curiosity. Okay? He said love. I have a few things to say about love. Now, I could say maybe you guys are not interested in this. That's why no pressure was built, because there is no curiosity. Maybe there is no hand going up because there is no pressure building up within you. Or maybe you come to realize you're far too incompetent to raise your hand and even be able to ask a question in the right way. So out of humility and dignity for yourself, you just keep your hand down and just listen. And I'm giving you a very, very simple example. She basically gets triggered and hand goes up and says, you need to love yourself. She doesn't tell me what a self is. She doesn't tell me whether or not a society creates a self, whether there's a God that creates a self. She doesn't give me anything about imagined self, about a self made of capitalism, a self that's ambitious, that's corrupt, that drinks, that smokes, that's frightened. She doesn't say any of those things. She doesn't tell me if love is a creation of reflection, of pain, of pleasure, whether this love is a creation of a one-night stand, if it's forced, if it's harassed, if it's abused. None of those things. But she has a pressure within her nevertheless. Love yourself. Whenever you have a dream, whatever kind it may be, there is pressure inside you that needs releasing. And the dream is one of the ways that the pressure is released. Okay. Now, the first is called elat. It means caused. You have a bad day at work, you go home, you sleep, and you're fighting Mike Tyson. You're immensely alone and depressed. You have a dream. It's more than a nightmare. That you're in Yosemite, amongst giant trees, dark, no moon, cloudy, by yourself. All these dreams have a message to give you. And your task is to wake up to write them down. You won't understand them. You won't be able to piece them together. Years must pass until you have the proper tools to look at these dreams and then decode them. There is something that Socrates had said, and it's something that most of, and you will even find it in the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's something that there's a man named King Utnapishtim, and I'll speak of him a little bit. He doesn't teach directly. He doesn't teach by telling if you want A, you need to go through Z and X. He gives you metaphors. He gives you stories. He gives you puzzles. All of you in this class will eventually get married and will have children. But before getting married and having children, this is what I think you should do. Write down everything, especially all the mistakes that you make, because you will see your kids making them. Just write them down. Don't regret. Don't punish yourself for having made them. Just write them down. When you get to be 50, a bit more seasoned, where your body is far too exhausted to just be moving around town, where emotionally you have gained some stability and maturity, where you sit and you're able to think and reflect. Sit and read your journals. Why you drank, why you had one-night stands, why you had friends, why you watched porn, why you smoke weed, why you were angry all the time. Your kids will go through all of them. And if you can decode your stories at the age of 50, then you can give it to your own kids. And hopefully, they won't make as many mistakes. So the first is a let. On a daily basis, go back to Sigmund Freud. You don't want to be around people, but you have no choice but to be. And you're not going to be around people that you like all the time. Most often, you will not like them. You need to make rent. You may not want to, like to, but you have to. Otherwise, you'll be in the streets. Making rent means job. Your job is not going to be an extension of your soul. There is nothing creative in you, about you. You will be exploited. You will hate your job. The world has no choice but to create a good amount of unpleasant feelings and emotions about you. You will need to release this. Some you will do in waking hours. Some you will do when you're not awake, in sleep. The other dreams that happen, they're kind of fall in the category of self-fulfilling prophecies. Where you keep thinking about something over and over and over again. If you've been in a string of bad relationships, 5 or 6 or 7, and you may be in a very healthy relationship, you will have a dream that this man or this woman is walking away from you. And you will be frightened, and you will be angry, and you will sabotage the relationship, like all the other times you have. And as the message, the dreams in the first category, a lot of cause the dreams that have to do with the external world, have messages for you to decode. This category of dreams is not caused by the external, but by your own internal world. Then there is this other category of dreams. It has nothing to do with your place in history, your time in history. It has nothing to do with your psychology. It has nothing to do with your experiences. You have dreams that come to you from lands and places unknown to humanity for the most part. They are transformative. Okay? In the aftermath of Jesus' death, a lot of his disciples supposedly had all these different dreams. And the main character in all of their dreams was Jesus Christ. Okay. Now look, if you look at the world, what do you see in it? Competition, abuse and harassment. If you look at yourself, what do you see inside yourself? A good amount of confusion, frustration, anxiety, hurts and wounds and pains. If you see Jesus Christ, what do you see in him? Understanding, wisdom, compassion, and forgiveness. You have 3 different categories of dreams, each having their own unique qualities. So when you have dreams of Jesus Christ, consider parts of yourself to have been chosen. Okay? The analects of Confucius. It's not that all Confucius' students were around him. They had dreams of him. In the dreams, Confucius spoke to them, and it becomes part of Confucianism wisdom. And the point I'm trying to make is the following. The more of you that lives in the world, the more dreams you will have that contains worldly components. The more inward you are because of good amounts of pain and hurt and confusion that lives inside you, the more of you that lives inside the dreams. If you're working with a Buddha, with an Enkidu, if you're thinking about death and afterlife, okay, you have more of divine stuff, wisdom stuff inside you. So if you're working with someone like, for example, Eckhart Tolle, you will have dreams of Eckhart Tolle all the time. Why? Because you see Eckhart Tolle on TV, what do you find? Someone who is calm, someone who embodies wisdom supposedly, someone who gives great advice, someone who's been depressed, someone who's out of depression. If I was to reveal something about myself, it would be in regards to dreams, it would be the following. When I was about 18 or 19 or 20, I met a man, a Persian man, a big, heavy man, heavy-set man. He eventually became kind of like a father figure for me. I would go to his house 2-3 times a week. I would go to the shop 2-3 times a week. And he passed away 3 years ago. He had cancer. But he was the initiator of me becoming interested in philosophy and thinking and reflecting and eventually getting my degrees in philosophy and religious studies. My life is because of him. Okay. Now, the first 10 years of me working with this man, almost all the dreams that I would ever have, he was the centerpiece in the dream. Okay. And the point I'm trying to make is the following. If you situate your body in different environments, those environments create different emotions, different thinking patterns, and ultimately different behaviors, and ultimately different dreams. But the point of dreaming is the following. Again, whenever you have a dream, Look at it, try to understand it if you can, and then make some changes, modifications in your physical waking life. Now, Enkidu wakes up from the dream. 2 days later, he is sick. What he dreamt about is coming to life. When he gets sick, he turns to Gilgamesh and says, Gilgamesh, I need to tell you something. I had a dream. In the dream, A, B, C, D happened to me. In the dream, I went to this place called the House of Dust, darkness, sand. I am going to die. Now, Gilgamesh doesn't believe any of this. But Enkidu gets sicker and sicker and sicker. And this is what happens when he gets sick and he knows he's about to die. He goes back in time. And he says to himself, what was the cause of my fallenness? How did I fall from grace? I was naked. I was innocent. I was a man of nature filled with compassion, reflection, innocence. How did this happen? The woman, Shamash. And on his deathbed, he begins to curse the woman. Now, one of the reasons why Enkidu begins to say all these nasty things about this woman is the following. One day Gilgamesh comes home. This is way back in the Epic. One day Gilgamesh comes home and Enkidu is crying. And Gilgamesh asks, what is wrong with you? And he says, look at my body. I sit. There is nothing interesting for me to go to. There is nothing interesting for me to look at and touch. I have no use for my body. This is the society, the civilization you've created. I feel completely useless. I sat home today and I read and I wrote. Then I sat, I woke, stood up, made some lunch, 10 minutes. I sat and had my food and watched some tennis. Then I sat in my car and I walked to my office. Then I sat in my office. Then I walked to the classroom and now I'm sitting on my desk. I have spent 95% of my waking hours sitting. You know, one of the nice things about countries that are known for tourism, going to Rome and then going to Florence, they were interesting experiences for me. The moment you woke up, you will go downstairs, get some coffee, and then you walk. And you walk for hours. You would come home around 4 or 5, you take a shower, you sit for maybe 10 minutes, and then you hit the streets. There are lights everywhere. People don't start eating until like 9 or 10 at night. And you walk. And people are laughing. I mean, Italians are professional hedonists. They know how to have fun, how to eat well. They're great people. And there are cathedrals everywhere. But it's a happy Christianity. It's a comfortable Christianity. It's no longer a Jesus who says, whoever sits next to me sits next to fire. It's a Jesus that says whoever sits next to me can sit comfortably. That's Italians. And it's beautiful. But the point is, I walked for 2 weeks every day for 10, 15 hours. And it's a complaint I make to my wife every day since we've been back. I just sit. Is there nothing we can do? Is there no place we can go? I can't go to Berkeley, it smells like shit. I can't walk Oakland, it's dirty, it's messy. And people look bad, burdened. At least when I'm home, I can see statues and paintings. When I go to the street, it's anxiousness, frustration.